Hi everyone, thanks for joining here as we spend the time on this recording going through the one-on-one interactions portion of the minor athlete abuse prevention policy. We realize that there have been a lot of questions that have come up in this section and just want to talk through that a little bit and make sure that we are all on the same page with what this portion of the policy is entailing. So we're going to walk through each section of it. There are 4 different pieces here in the one-on-one interaction, and so we'll walk through each 4 of those pieces and hopefully just be able to answer some of the common questions and things that are coming up in regards to this piece. We will go through observable and interruptible. What does that mean? Meetings that happen with mental health care professionals and providers, and then the recommended portion of this section, and we'll talk through all of these. So the first, observable and interruptible. What does that really mean? This is language that is consistent across the entire minor athlete abuse prevention policy when it comes to one-on-one interactions. And again, the key pieces here, observable and interruptible. And what does that mean? And what it really means is that interaction that takes place in such a way that another adult can see all of the interactions that are happening, and that other adult can interrupt if they observe something that's questionable in the moment that it is occurring. So that doesn't mean that someone has to be standing right next to you, but it does mean that they have to be in a place where they can either physically interrupt or vocally interrupt something that seems concerning, and that's really what that comes down to. The emergency circumstance piece. This is going to be, an example of that would be if there's a kiddo having a medical emergency and you have to, there's only one adult there with the kid as they're trying to help. Certainly, that meets the expectation of an emergency circumstance. And if for whatever reason you had to have some type of one-on-one interaction in that emergency circumstance, it would be really good to document that. Document the date, the time, what occurred and why it happened, and just keep that on file so that should there be anything that comes up in the future around, hey, we heard that there was this time that there was one-on-one interaction, what was that for? It's really clear, this is what it was for, this is what it was about, this is how I handled it, and you have that documentation, and you can keep that in, in however you file things, but it'd be really good to do that. So observable and interruptible, this falls in line with what used to be in best practice, our best practice guidelines, such as 2 Deep Leadership, right? So this is something that adults in our sport have been doing for a long time as a best practice to keep everybody in a safe place. So now it is just a formal piece of the policies. The next section here is meetings. And meetings, this again falls in line with our best practice guidelines that have been in place for a long time, but they must occur, following the one-on-one expectations, door to remain open, unlocked, if available, happening where there's windows, keeping any blinds or curtains open, and of course not happening like in the lodging space or like in a hotel room, that would not be okay. So following in line with best practice guidelines that we've had, but now it's just really formalized into the policy to make it really clear what's okay and what's not in regards to meetings. This third piece, meetings with mental health care professionals and or healthcare providers. This is pretty straightforward, and this is going to be a situation where the team is bringing in somebody to work with the team. Certainly, it's not expected that anytime a parent makes a parenting or a guardian makes a decision to, to take their child to a therapist or to the doctor, that they're providing consent to the team for that. But we have had that come up. So this is going to be, if there's a provider coming in at competition sites, those kinds of things, you want to follow all of these expectations. So again, following right in line with best practices that have been in place, but just formalizing that here. The last piece, and I'm just highlighting here that it's recommended, but this is in regards to one-on-one interaction that happens outside of the regular course of training or practice or competition between applicable adults and minor athletes. So for example, a coach that gives private lessons to an athlete. We can't really control what a guardian or family decides to do for their child outside of USA Swimming. But if they do interact with the individuals that would be considered applicable adults, we would suggest that they follow the same types of expectations, that the interaction be observable and interruptible by another adult, so maybe the legal guardian, and that there always be the opportunity for that legal guardian to be able to observe the training session and be involved in things. We find that again, when you have one-on-one interaction and parents aren't allowed to be around, that increases risk. And therefore increases the opportunity for bad things to happen. And so while this is a recommended piece, certainly falls in line with what we have said before, which is for, follow the same expectations and for guardians to be able to be involved in what's going on. So that really breaks down the one-on-one interactions. One more piece to add is telephone conversations. While that falls into a little bit of like electronic communication and connections that way, we are considering telephone conversations to be considered one-on-one interactions. And so again, just making sure that those conversations between applicable an adult and a minor athlete are observable and interruptible by another adult. So the best way to do that would be to have, if you're having a conversation with a minor athlete on the phone, is to have somebody else in the room or near you when you're having that conversation. Whether that's, at the pool or at the Panera Bread, someone else is there listening. If that's not doable, then having somebody else on the athlete side available to be around. So that is the other piece that we will add on to the, just as information to the one-on-one interactions piece of this. If you have more questions, please reach out to us here at this email address. We are happy to take your questions and process with you guys. And please reference all of the FAQs and all of the examples and resources that are available at the short link. Thank you always for your hard work and dedication with this. We know that it's changing how we're doing business, but certainly appreciate your commitment to doing what's best for our athletes and for all of our members. So thank you very much, and reach out if you need anything.